Hey girlfriend, my name is Nitavia, as you can see here, and I just wanted to come on and share a little bit of my story, my testimony, my journey. Um, I am a mom to a beautiful 10-year-old girl, a single mom. At the moment, of course, it's God's will for his daughters to get married. The ones who he's put the desire in to be married. So girlfriend, your girl, she will be getting married. When? I don't know. But I have it in me to want to, marry a man. Yeah, let's get into my story. So the reason I'm here today is because, I wanted to be as transparent as possible and share my testimony, my journey, my faith, and how God came and rescued me out of my sin. Trust me, it has not been an easy process. There's times that I've gone back, I've backslidden, and God has came back to redeem me. And when I say God, I mean God, Jesus, Christ, the Holy Spirit, all three. Because, we out here and people is a lot of gods, little g. So we got to make sure, I just want y'all to know, who I'm referring to when I'm talking about God. So I'm talking about my Lord and my Savior, Jesus Christ. So yeah, where do I start, girl? I guess I can start in 2015. So 2015, I was pregnant. No, 2014, I was pregnant in the beginning of the year. I gave birth to my daughter in March. And during that time, I was wrestling, not with my faith, because at the time, honestly, I was not thinking about Jesus. I was not thinking about God. I grew up going to church, but I was never what you call a church girl. So my mom, she would bring me and my siblings to church. It's 5 of us, and we would have to go 2 to 3 times a week. And so that happened all the way up until middle school, right? Once I got to high school, then she gave us the choice, like, if you want to come to church or not. She allowed us that freedom to figure that part out for ourselves. And obviously someone that's been going to church 2 or 3 times a week against their will and not being submerged in it and not feeling like they're getting anything out of it, is going to choose to live their life and do things the way they want to do it. And so that's what I chose. And so yeah, I was in the world. I was doing my own thing. I was living my best life, or what I thought was my best life. And at the time, I had just gotten out of a relationship that was it wasn't the worst relationship, but it wasn't one of my best either. It wasn't a better for me either, because honestly, at the time when I was in the world, I didn't know my worth. I didn't know my purpose. I didn't know why I was here. I just was kind of doing some stuff, just living. I was a party promoter. I was bartending. I was doing so much stuff. Just trying to figure out life, right? 21 years old, 22 years old, and I had my daughter at 22, turning 23. So I was 21 years old, and I was out there, just doing my own thing, and I wasn't thinking about God. And I was having a good time. Let me tell you, I was having a good time. But things came to a halt. Me and my daughter's father reconnected. We actually grew up together from a very young age. We from the same projects in our hometown, and through that process, when we reconnected, because our friendship was broken apart, and then we came back together as friends. We never had anything other than that. But then when we did come back together, it was because he desired more than friendship from me at that time. So I'm 21 years old. I'm trying to get out of this toxic relationship that I'm in, this confusion I'm in, and this new person shows up. And to me, the situation in my mind was like, I could get out of this situation, but I could also kill a few other birds with one stone. You want to hear a little bit about those birds, you will have to purchase the book, because I'm not even going to get into that here on camera. But you have to purchase Purposeful Pain. So fast forward, I get pregnant with my daughter. We weren't in a relationship. We were in a situationship. back and forth, on and off, on and off, and we get pregnant with our daughter. And honestly, she's the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because she's part of the reason why some of my morals and my values started coming back to the surface. So before her and through childhood, I would always say like, "Oh, I'm gonna have a baby before I get married." I'm thinking in my mind with my husband. I'm not thinking like just to have a baby and start a family and not be with the person that I had this child with. But the way I grew up, we didn't see a lot of men around. We didn't see a lot of men stick around after they had children. And so I grew up in a place and with a mentality that like a woman is gonna make it happen regardless. A woman is gonna be there regardless. And so that was ingrained in me. And so I always was like I wanted to have my child, and then for my first child to be able to be there to experience her parents' wedding together. And so yeah, that pretty much, was my mindset then. And then I didn't really want to have a relationship with my daughter's father, because there was a lot of red flags from him and red flags from me between us. And so after I gave birth to her, like my mindset started changing concerning like actually trying to make it work with him. And so that's what I try to do. I try to pursue us, try to pursue us as a family. And in the midst of us trying to do that, this other person that he was also in a relationship with, off and on, became pregnant by him. And so that caused me, not that specifically caused me to go into a depression, but it was a lot of lying happening in the midst of it, like him not telling the truth concerning the situation and trying to make it seem like, the girl was in the wrong, or the girl was not telling the full truth, or it wasn't his child, or whatever. And so that caused me to like stay there in the situation with him and at least try to make it work. But then after they conceived, or they gave birth to their son, that's when like I came to my wits, and I ended up getting a phone call from a cousin of mine, and she ended up talking to one of our other cousins, and that cousin was kind of friends with this person that it was it's a big triangle, right? But anyways, information got back to me that there was some stuff going on in the midst that I didn't know about, and some dots that connected with some things that was going on behind the scenes with me and my daughter's father. So I would say that to say this because it brought me to a place of being in a very, 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 very serious state of depression. Not wanting to like kill myself, but definitely feeling like I was at one of the lowest points in my life, where I had this newborn baby. I thought I could make it work with my daughter's father, and now he's having another child with this other person, and nothing is ever going to be the same as what I thought it would be, or it could be. And also that he's lying to me in the midst of all of this stuff. So on that weekend that they had their child, I couldn't stop crying. Like I was crying and crying and crying. I was like feeling like I needed therapy. Like I thought that was something that I felt like I need therapy. I need therapy. And I remember going to my mom. My mom, very devoted, going to church, praying and seeking God, and very serious about her walk. And I went to her and I told her like I need therapy. And she was like, no, you need Jesus. You need to come to church with me. Now, this is not the first time that she tried to get me to go to church, like back to church with her. But this was the one successful time where it's like, okay, like I'll try anything like at this point, and you know what, like I'll go to church. So that day I went to church, I don't even remember the message, but I remember feeling like everything was going to be okay. Even in the midst of crying, I cried the whole service. But I knew that this was the first step in me giving myself to Christ. I needed to do this for me. And so that's what happened. Like right while we were there, I rededicated myself to Christ, because I had gotten saved when I was 11 years old, but again, didn't walk the walk or have anybody guiding me or any of that stuff. And so I actually just surrendered in that moment and decided that, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. Now, let me tell you something, girl. When you do this, it doesn't mean that everything is going to be perfect right then and there. Sometimes God cleans you all the way up right then and there. And sometimes He allows you to be clean in pieces and pieces and pieces and pieces. It's obviously, or for me, I'm still in the process of being cleaned off from that encounter that I had 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, 2014. So it's going to be 10 years in November this year that I had that encounter at church, where I knew I needed to surrender, but I really wasn't ready to fully surrender that. So I went on a Daniel fast, I remember, because it was November and the church was going to go on fast in December 1st. And so I went on that Daniel fast and I prayed, I read my Bible by myself. I was obviously having ex, prior. And so I didn't have ex then during that time, and I felt so clear. I felt like I could hear God, like I could literally hear Him telling me what to do. And I tried my best to like do everything He wanted me to do, but there's still pieces of you that is like still pulled towards those the things that you want and the things that you desire. And so yeah, I gave my life to Christ officially. So I went back to church November 2014, but I didn't officially give my life, like really surrender myself back to Jesus until July 2015 in my house. During that time, in between that time, I had gotten into another relationship. I left my daughter's father, or we left each other. I got into another relationship. A man that I had prayed would come into my life, and I actually prophesied this person into my life. I actually spoke him, what people would say, spoke him into existence. I prophesied him. I spoke him up, and but girl, I was not ready for him, and I fumbled that bad. Surely fumbled it all the way. And so yeah, got in a relationship, ended up getting out of the relationship, was out of that relationship by October 2015, and fully celibate, not celibate, abstaining from sex till marriage, and for the next few years. So yeah, during that process, I switched churches. I left my home church and I went to another church. That church ended up turning into a disaster. It started out good, but it ended up being somewhere that I will never refer someone to go. And I will never, even though I had that experience, I would never wish the experience on someone else. And I was there for 5 years at that church. And then I left that church, came back to my home church, and right now I'm just here, working on my relationship with God, trying my best to hear God for myself. I depended a lot on other people's voices, whether it was my mother, whether it was the pastor from the church I was at, whether it was people around me, whether it was my daughter's father, whether it was friends or ex or whatever. For a long time in life, I depended on other people's voices to guide me, rather than depending on myself, my own voice, the Holy Spirit that's inside of me, my spirit, my gut, my intuition, to lead and guide me into where I need to go. And so it's very important on our paths that as God is fortifying us, as God is forging us to be who He called us to be, the purpose that He put us inside of us, for us to be careful of the voices that we hear, because sometimes it could go against what God is telling you to do. God might be telling you something way different than He's telling your friend or your boyfriend. I don't know if you have a boyfriend, or your husband, or your pastor, or your parent, or your siblings, any of that. I think for me, my voice, I didn't realize how impactful my voice can be, because I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have the confidence in my own voice, and the voice that God He's put me on this earth to have. And so now where I'm at, I'm working on building the confidence. I'm working on listening to what God is saying to me through my hearing, through my body, because girl, God talks in so many different ways. He talks through your body. Like if you can feel if something is off, you can feel if something is right. Pay attention to those cues. I've realized through living that I've always had these cues throughout my whole life, but I didn't know how to navigate with them. So I would suppress them. I was suppressing because I didn't know. So while I'm being around someone I shouldn't be around, I'm around them suppressing this emotion. that, or this feeling inside of me, because what I'm seeing in front of me looks different from what I'm feeling inside of me. So pay attention to your body. Pay attention to what God is speaking to you. Sorry. So yeah, I just wanted to come on and really just let y'all know a little bit of, share a little bit of my story. And again, if you want to know more, my book is called Purposeful Pain. You can find me on IG, on Facebook, if you want the book. Also www.honeywiththepen.com. You can go on there, and yeah, I just want to be here. I want to share a little bit of my testimony, and of course, it's much more. It could be much longer, but I'm gonna stop here, and then if we need to like continue on a part 2, then we'll do that. But right now, I'm gonna stop here, and girlfriend, I will talk to you soon.